Good morning, Alex and friends. I'm Grace. Today is Thursday, September 25th, 2025, and you're listening to Alex's News. The high in Riverside today is 84.6 degrees, with a low of 66.0, so expect a pleasant fall day with comfortable temperatures for outdoor activities. Coming up, we'll examine the reasons behind the Department of Justice's swift push to charge former FBI Director James Comey with perjury. We'll also explore why critics are labeling California's latest insurance reforms as retaliation against consumer protection groups. Plus, other key stories on national and local developments that matter to you. All this and more on Alex's News. Stay tuned. Good morning, everyone. We're starting today's broadcast with a developing story that's sure to stir the pot in Washington. Just yesterday, reports surfaced that the Justice Department is racing against the clock to indict former FBI Director James Comey on perjury charges. Joining me now from the studio to break this down is our justice correspondent, Ethan. Ethan, this comes amid a lot of political heat, right?
Absolutely, Grace. According to reporting from the Associated Press, first published yesterday and picked up by outlets like WRAL News and U.S. News and World Report, prosecutors in the Eastern District of Virginia are gearing up to present the case to a grand jury as early as tomorrow, September 26th. That's just days before the 5-year statute of limitations expires on September 30th, in 5 days, which would slam the door on any perjury charges under 18 U.S.C. Section 1621. For folks unfamiliar, that's the federal law covering lies under oath, like in congressional hearings, which this stems from.
Perjury from his testimony? Walk us through what Comey is accused of saying back then.
Sure, it ties back to his September 30th, 2020 video conference before the Senate Judiciary Committee, defending the FBI's Crossfire hurricane probe into possible Russia links to Donald Trump's 2016 campaign. As ABC News uncovered in their exclusive yesterday evening, prosecutors zero in on Comey's denials of media leaks. Under grilling from Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, Comey swore he never leaked anonymously about the Trump probe and didn't authorize any FBI staff to do so. He even referenced former Deputy Director Andrew McCabe's similar denials, saying, quote, "Again, I'm not going to characterize Andy's testimony, but mine is the same today," end quote. But McCabe's own words suggest Comey knew about and greenlit leaks to the Wall Street Journal, a real eyebrow raiser.
And there's more to those exchanges? What about the Steele dossier?
Exactly, Grace. Reports from the Washington Post and Democracy docket, citing the Senate transcript available on Senate.gov, highlight Comey's back and forth with Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina on a meeting with Christopher Steele, the ex-British spy behind that infamous dossier, alleging Trump-Russia dirt. Prosecutors claim Comey downplayed the FBI's dealings with Steele and how they handled the intel. Fox News and CBS News have pointed to these as clashing with internal FBI files and McCabe's accounts. No new smoking gun docs have dropped, though. It's all rehashing old testimony, as the AP notes via WRAL.
This feels politically charged. How does President Trump factor in?
He's front and center, Grace. Trump, who axed Comey in 2017 amid the Russia probe, blasted him on Truth Social over the September 20th and 21st weekend. According to the AP and ABC News, Trump urged Attorney General Pam Bondi, sworn in back in February, to prosecute Comey, quote, Adam Shifty Schiff, end quote, and New York AG Letitia James, demanding, quote, justice must be served now, end quote. The Guardian and Independent report Trump calling Comey and ex-CIA head John Brennan, quote, crooked as hell, end quote. It's sparked cries of DOJ weaponization, especially with new FBI Director Kash Patel claiming in July they found, quote, burn bags, end quote, of Russia docs.
Leadership shakeup in Virginia, too? Explain the Eastern District of Virginia for our viewers.
Right. The EDVA is a powerhouse for national security cases, near D.C. with top judges. Venue fits because Comey testified remotely from there during COVID, per 18 U.S.C. Section 3237, on where false statements happen, as lawfare analyses explain. But turmoil hit last week. U.S. Attorney Eric Siebert quit around September 19th, resisting pressure on baseless charges, per ABC News. Trump says he fired him and tapped Lindsay Halligan on September 22nd. She's a Trump ex-lawyer from the Mar-a-Lago docs case. No Fed prosecutor chops, just insurance law background. NPR and the New York Times call it unprecedented White House meddling. Even a DOJ memo this week warned against charges, saying evidence falls short of probable cause, per ABC sources.
Past probes cleared him, didn't they? Like Horowitz and Durham?
Spot on. The 2019 Inspector General report by Michael Horowitz okayed starting Crossfire Hurricane, but slammed FISA errors on Carter Page surveillance and Comey's memo leaks as unauthorized. Yet DOJ passed on charges in 2019, finding no classified media breaches. John Durham's 2023 report ripped the probe's basis but only nabbed one low-level guilty plea, acquitting 2 others, and cleared FBI brass like Comey. CBS News and Newsweek say no fresh evidence now. It's political revival under Halligan, per internal memos via Time and PBS.
Comey's team silent? And implications?
His lawyer no commented yesterday, per AP and ABC. No docket yet, so indictment's iffy. Legal pros on Fox News and New York Sun warn proving perjury intent is tough, despite grand jury's low bar. It'd be historic, prosecuting a former FBI chief over Russia amid Mueller's confirmed Moscow meddling but no Trump conspiracy. Broader worry eroding DOJ independence, as Washington Post and Guardian fret, validating Trump's revenge tale.
Whoa, Ethan. That's a Comey comeback no one saw coming. Thanks for unpacking this whirlwind. Up next, Story 2. And now, our second story this morning takes us into California's ongoing insurance woes, where homeowners in wildfire-prone areas are seeing premiums skyrocket and policies vanish like morning mist. Joining me to unpack Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara's latest proposed reforms is our reporter Chloe, who's been digging into this tale of rates, revenge, and regulatory roulette.
Thanks, Grace. That's right. As of today, September 25th, 2025, the Golden State's insurance market is in a real bind, with major players like State Farm and Allstate pulling back new homeowner policies due to wildfire losses topping $40 billion in recent years, according to data from the Insurance Information Institute as reported by Insurance Journal on September 20th.
Chloe, for folks tuning in who might not follow insurance lingo, what exactly is Proposition 103, and why is Lara shaking things up now?
Proposition 103 is that 1988 voter-approved ballot measure that requires prior approval for any rate changes to shield consumers from hikes. Lara, the Democrat elected in 2018 and hitting term limits next year, announced these reforms on September 18th as part of his sustainable insurance strategy from late 2024. The goal? Streamline the review process that's averaging 11 months for approvals, way longer than the national average of 64 days, per a July 2025 report from the Center for California Real Estate cited in Capital Weekly. Insurers say it's bogging down the market, especially with reinsurance costs exploding in this hard market phase.
Streamlining sounds good for stability, but I've heard critics calling it revenge. What's the beef there?
Spot on, Grace. Consumer advocates at the nonprofit Consumer Watchdog, who co-authored Proposition 103, are slamming it as vindictive payback in a feud that's been simmering since Lara's campaign. Their president, Jamie Court, said, quote, "revenge," end quote, in a September 24th statement on their site, echoed by CalMatters reporter Levi Sumigase's piece that day, republished across outlets like the Los Angeles Times and Lookout Santa Cruz. They've pocketed 87% of over $12.5 million in intervener fees from 2013 to 2023, per CDI records analyzed by the International Center for Law and Economics in a July 2024 brief.
Interveners? Break that down for us, Chloe. Who are they, and why the controversy over their compensation?
Interveners are third-party groups, like nonprofits, that jump into rate hearings to challenge insurers on behalf of consumers, recovering fees if they substantially contribute. Lara's plan tightens that, requiring public reports on activities and payouts to curb dominance by a few players, since consumer watchdogs snagged nearly $1.4 million in 2025 alone across 26 of 28 cases, according to their own disclosures. It also sets firm timelines, like returning to the original 60-day review with two 30-day extensions max, and limits administrative law judges' wiggle room to avoid delays, as praised by the American Property Casualty Insurance Association in a September 20th statement covered by Insurance Business Magazine.
And the feud's flashpoints? Sounds like a soap opera in Sacramento.
It does have that dramatic flair, Grace. Key clashes include a April 2025 lawsuit over fair plan surcharges, where Consumer Watchdog called it an industry bailout. A judge dismissed core claims July 23, upholding Lara's authority, per CDI's announcement, and Sacramento Bee coverage July 24. Then, July 29, they sued again over denied $1.4 million in fees, alleging retaliation, as noted in a Reed-Smith August 2025 analysis. Plus, a July 2024 recertification delay they dubbed Orwellian, reported by Capital Weekly August 1. Lara argues the system lacks transparency, with them taking 90% of fees since 2013.
So is there proof interveners are causing these delays, or is it more wildfire fallout?
Evidence is mixed, but Lara's side points to the ICLE's July 2024 report, cited in Insurance Journal September 19, showing delays doubling to 337 days with interveners versus 160 without, from 2017 to 2020. Yet Consumer Watchdog claims timelines are similar either way, crediting themselves for slashing approved hikes, like saving $6.4 billion since 2002. Broader culprits? 2025 wildfires alone cost $40 billion, per Reinsurance News September 15th, and reinsurance up 50 to 100% via Optalytics August 2025.
What's next for these reforms, Chloe? How can Californians weigh in?
The proposal hit the Office of Administrative Law September 19th, with public comments opening in 8 days on October 3rd and running 45 days to November 17th. A hearing set 56 days from now on November 20th at 1 p.m., possibly in Oakland or virtual. Check insurance.ca.gov for details. As Milliman experts quoted in Actuaries.digital September 22nd predict, faster approvals might lure insurers back, adding $10 to $15 billion in coverage, per Insurance Business Magazine September 21st. But critics fear 10 to 20% premium jumps without checks.
A high-stakes game of insuring the future, indeed. Thanks for breaking it all down, Chloe.
My pleasure, Grace.
Here are some other headlines. Super Typhoon Ragasa roared ashore in Guangdong's Yangjiang, with winds whipping to 145 kilometers an hour, turning streets into streams and lights into memories. More than 2.16 million people were moved out of harm's way as China doubled down on preemptive evacuations. In Jiangmen and Yangjiang, the storm knocked out power for hundreds of thousands of households, leaving coastal communities literally in the dark about when the juice will be back. Schools, factories, and transit systems across at least 10 cities were shuttered, as one of the world's busiest manufacturing belts hit the brakes. With port operations in Hong Kong and nearby hubs paused earlier in the week, global supply chains could feel Ragasa's wake, proof that when the weather shifts, commerce can get storm-tossed. In a trade twist with global traction, China says it will stop seeking special and differential treatment in future World Trade Organization talks. Beijing calls it a move to bolster the rules-based system amid tariff tempests and protectionist squalls. The decision doesn't erase China's self-designation as a developing nation, but it does change the forecast for negotiations on fisheries and farm subsidies, where Beijing is a big boat in a crowded harbor. WTO leadership hailed the shift as headline-making and years in the making, potentially resetting the table so the smallest economies don't feel like they brought a fork to a chopstick fight. On the Son of Justice, a Paris court has found former French President Nicolas Sarkozy guilty of criminal conspiracy tied to alleged illicit Libyan funding for his 2007 campaign. He was acquitted of other serious counts, including passive corruption and illegal campaign financing. The sentence, 5 years in prison, subject to appeal, which suspends the clock while the higher court weighs in. It's another heavy gavel for a heavyweight of the French right, as the judiciary signals even those who once held the keys to the Élysée must still answer to the rule of law. The case turns a long-running political thriller into a real-world legal chapter, with the next plot point set by the appellate calendar. On the platform beat, YouTube plans to reinstate some creators previously banned under policies that have since been rescinded, particularly around COVID-19 and election misinformation. In a letter to Congress, parent company Alphabet framed the shift as a commitment to free expression, with a pilot program to review cases tied to rules no longer in effect. The move follows sustained pressure from conservatives who argued moderation went too far, and it could reopen revenue streams for creators returning to the fold. The company says it values ideological diversity. Critics warn the pendulum may swing from content moderation to content muddle. And in Colorado, a financial firebreak, Xcel Energy, will pay about $640 million to resolve claims from the 2021 Marshall Fire, which destroyed nearly 100 homes and buildings. The settlement, reached with insurers, public entities, and thousands of residents, comes without Xcel admitting fault, even as investigators identified a second ignition point linked to one of its power lines. 2 telecom firms will also chip in. Xcel says insurance will cover roughly $350 million, with the rest charged against earnings, and no costs passed to customers. For communities long in ash and limbo, it's a check toward closure and a cautionary bill for utilities in an increasingly fire-prone West. That's all we have for now. Today's episode was made by Alexander King with Claude Sonnet 4.0, Gemini Pro 2.5, Gemini Flash 2.5, and Google Cloud Text-to-Speech. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, Alex.